Good afternoon on this Tuesday, February 8th of 2022 as we enter our fifth week of class. I'm going to post two separate videos for this week, one on chapter 20 and the other one on chapter 13, because it's hard to get across to you all the information in just one video. For purposes of this video, I'll be referring to some notes. And basically, I'll cover everything in the chapter. First, chapter 20, and then I'll talk about narrative research in chapter 13. Qualitative research is fascinating, and the first thing you need to do is get rid of all your preconceptions that it's not equal to quantitative research. Things just don't go the same as they do in quantitative research. To begin, field work is when you're in the field. It's collecting the information that you need to know to make determinations about the themes of whatever phenomenon you are trying to explore. In the classroom, in the sports field, in the nursing home, in the hospital, in the medical practice, or wherever we do this type of qualitative research, do not think for 1 minute, don't think for 1 minute that qualitative research is inferior to quantitative research. As a matter of fact, qualitative research is often much harder to do and often takes a longer period of time than doing a quick survey, which we'll learn about in a few weeks. Getting it out and done in like 1 to 2 months. Frequently, qualitative research takes about at least 6 months, 3 to 6 months to complete. And for longer studies, it takes much longer than that. So, I also want to talk to you about participant versus non-participant observation. I recommend participant observation, but again, it all comes down to what type of qualitative study that you're doing. In a participant observation study, you are allowed to interact with the participants, not changing how they feel, not affecting the outcome, but just be there, and smile, and interact with them while you take copious fieldwork notes. Now, field notes often consist of at least three items. That's known as triangulation. If you're doing a narrative study, or no matter what kind of qualitative study you do, you want to make sure that you have 3 sources of data to triangulate your position that you're trying to prove. This goes back to the whole idea of navigating. In the old days, when I was a navigator on B1s and B-52s, we used to find our position through the use of the stars. And that's essentially what a GPS does now. GPS will give you 23, 24 lines of position by the satellites that hover overhead. And the intersection of these lines, where they come together, you can make a reasonable assumption that that is in fact where you are. So when you're dealing with 3 sources of data, quite frequently they are observations, they are interviews, and they are field notes in some other way, artifacts from the classroom, grades, newspaper articles. It all depends on what you're trying to investigate. Now, these notes, when you take them down, have to be taken down with what we call low inference descriptors. What is a low inference descriptor? It's something where you can make a statement and you can write about it, and someone reading your statement doesn't have to make an inference about what it's about. For example, if you want to say 2 boys engaged in a fist fight in the back of the classroom, there's a lot of imagination that has to go into that. So you would want to provide exactly what precipitated the fist fight, what you observed, what kind of actions they did in the fist fight, how long did the fist fight occur, and so on like that. That's probably a pretty poor example, but anything you're observing, you want to go back and make use of high inference descriptives, which basically means you don't have to make an inference because the inference in the exact description is already there. Now, another thing that needs to be added in field notes is the time. And you also need to have a place where you can write your hunches. I'm going to illustrate for you by showing you a diagram here in a minute about how field notes should be structured. 2 seconds. This is a very poor representation of a decent bit of footnotes, but these little squiggly lines over here represent your description of what's going on. From the description, we generate what we call codes. Codes are units of meaning that you assign to each personal bit of data. Then finally here, as you go through and refine your field notes, you put hunches. What kinds of questions is it raising for you? And when all is said and done, basically your codes will lead to patterns from which you'll be able to pick out themes. Now this is complicated work. It's not easy to do. It's not as simple as sitting down and listening to someone's story. But as you can see, the codes lead to the patterns. Sorry about the glare on this. The codes lead to the patterns, which lead to the themes, and so on. It takes a lot of practice to do that and to do it well. I want to talk to you about validity and reliability for just a minute, because it's crucial that you kind of forget everything you knew or learned about validity and reliability in quantitative research. When we talk about qualitative research, basically we're worried about several things. And validity, all that means is the degree to which data that you acquired is accurate in describing what it is that you're trying to describe. A big important term is trustworthiness, which were developed by the beginning researchers in qualitative research way back in the 80s, known as Lincoln and Guba, not Goober. In any case, they came up with this idea of trustworthiness. And there's a table in the chapter, and also you can read many research articles on it. Trustworthiness measures the credibility, the transferability, the dependability, and the confirmability that is associated with your study. And if you read in the textbook and go through those slides, you'll see that you take certain steps in order to ensure each one of those 4 parameters is observed. Credibility. Does a report really address problems that are not easily explained? Or do you just do some fly-by-night thing that everybody already knows the answer to? Transferability. Did you write enough descriptions so someone reading your research could transfer your findings to whatever particular situation that they're in? Dependability. How stable was your data? Do you end by getting the same result over and over and over again? And finally, confirmability. You have to take steps to maintain that you're being neutral and you're being objective. And you're not just going with your biases and writing everything down that pertains to your biases. In qualitative research, we never prove anything. All we do is come up with themes related to the research questions that you may be examining. In qualitative research, you're not generalizing to anything. It's up to the reader to take the information that you provide and generalize to his or her situation. I hope this helps, and you can always contact me with any further questions you have. God bless and have a good day.